US and UK users' encrypted messages will be unencrypted for backdoor government access. Cloud in China is actually lagging behind the US, and a new survey shows that the majority of Canadians are losing sleep at night, worried about the direction of AI. Join me as I go over all the major announcements in the last month in the cloud space. Hi, I'm Matt Carolyn, and welcome to our November edition of Puck Online, bringing you a quick summary of all the major news and events for the public cloud space. Every month we'll come to you online in video, podcast and blog form, as well as in-person events every quarter in Vancouver, Canada. Today I'm broadcasting from downtown Vancouver with the view of BC Place behind me. As usual, lots of news to cover this month, so let's get into it. So in general news, Walt Disney Studios will move key features of its filmmaking processes to Microsoft's cloud platform Azure. While the initial focus is on moving some of the studio's editing to the cloud, the ultimate objective of the 5-year deal is to integrate the cloud into every facet of the movie production for Disney, from scene to scene. Cloud-based editing will allow for collaboration across far-flung locations. When I first got into the public cloud space 10 years ago, I used to use the story of how Qantas were making a TV commercial. They shut down the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge to do some filming on it, only for the film to be ruined by the X-ray machines at the airport. It cost them millions to shut down the bridge again. What if they had been recording in digital and uploaded it to a bucket like an S3 Amazon bucket? And not only that, they could start editing it before the film crew had even flown back to Australia. How the industry and the technology has evolved since then. And in 2023, we will see the public cloud market become a $500 billion market. Today, in 2019, it's set as a $229 billion market. And in more cloud news regarding the growth of cloud, despite their rapid growth, China's cloud computing industry lags far behind the US. According to a recent report from the International Institute of Technology and Economy, a non-profit research organization affiliated with Chinese government, China's cloud computing market increased by 39.2% in 2018, but that is only an eighth of the US market over the same period, according to the report. Moreover, 40% of the companies in China used cloud services in 2018. It's less than half of the 85% of firms in the US that use the cloud and 70% in the EU. And TD Bank released the results of a survey that they did for 1,200 people, which found that 2/3 of Canadians are concerned by the pace of AI. And with its initial public offering, cloud analytics firm Datadog became the 4th cloud software company in 2019 to debut with a market valuation of at least $10 billion. It joins the conferencing service provider Zoom, the workplace chat app Slack, and the cybersecurity vendor CrowdStrike. And the European Court of Justice just ruled that one of the core protections enshrined in the EU's flagship data privacy law does not shield European search results from US encroachment. At issue is the right to be forgotten, which represents a central tenet of the EU's General Data Protection Regulations, or GDPR, which requires that the data of Europeans must be stored on cloud servers located physically within the trade bloc. That triggers broader concerns for EU officials if a legal interpretation of the US Cloud Act renders the GDPR moot. By allowing American law enforcement access to all emails, including in a criminal investigation, regardless of their physical location. Also around government topics, cloud-based social media platforms in the US, including Facebook and WhatsApp, will be legally required to share users' encrypted messages with British police under a new treaty between the two countries, according to several news reports. And with the help of Microsoft and AWS, Canada's government agencies took a major step forward this summer in migrating sensitive public data such as human resources and financial records to the cloud. These workloads are classified as Protected B, which the Department of Justice describes as information where unauthorized disclosure could cause serious injury to an individual, organization, or government. The migration to the public cloud is part of the government's 2-year-old cloud-first strategy. And with the US presidential campaign season gaining steam, Amazon Web Services has joined Facebook and Microsoft in the Deepfake Detection Challenge in a bid to identify fake news. AWS has invested $1 million in the effort, which will be rolled out in December. The challenge will require contestants to sift through the dataset of 100,000 samples and use cloud-supported artificial intelligence applications to identify the fraudulent news items. In Google GCP news, a new Google feature is stirring concern about consumers' privacy. Introduced on the Google Nest Hub Max, Face Max uses the Smart Display's front-facing camera as a security checkpoint and for video calls. In addition to showing your photo, text, and calendar details once it recognizes your face. This mode of facial recognition is similar to Android Face Unlock and Apple's Face ID, and uses software similar to that found in Google Photos, Apple Photos, and Facebook to identify people. While it may seem trivial to some, many consumers are expressing increased concern about how their personal information is stored on the cloud. Google plans to invest roughly $3 billion over the next 2 years to expand its lineup of data centers across Europe, bringing the more than $16 billion in the tech giant's total investment in Europe's digital infrastructure since 2007. And Google's Advanced Technology and Projects division announced an update to its Jaguar application, which is a small computing sensor placed in new Levi's jackets. The app allows anyone wearing the jacket to use gestures to control music, navigation, picture taking, and access to the Smart Assistant and mobile alerts. Known as ATAP, the cloud-based system is an experimental incubator that redefines the consumer's experience with touchless controls. And Atlanta's city attorney the other week sent a letter to Google asking the company executives to explain allegations that contractors had sought out black homeless people in the city to scan their faces to improve Google's cloud-supported facial recognition technology. The letter follows news reports that a staffing agency hired by Google had sent its contractors to numerous American cities to target black people for facial scans. The technology has struggled infamously to consistently identify darker-skinned people. One unnamed former worker in Atlanta told the newspaper that the effort targeted the homeless because they were less likely to speak to the media. And Google's announced a breakthrough in computing research by using a quantum computer to solve in minutes a problem so complicated that it would take today's most powerful supercomputer thousands of years to crack. Quantum computing represents the next level of cloud technology, and Google researchers expect that within a few years it will advance fields such as artificial intelligence, material science, and chemistry. The company is racing rivals including IBM and Microsoft to be the first to commercialize the technology and sell it through its cloud platform. In IBM Cloud news, IBM has introduced its next generation of mainframes that it contends will combine the speeds and power of the Big Iron with the cost savings and efficiencies of hybrid cloud, data privacy, and security controls of modern workloads. The Z15 mainframe systems have 25% more memory and will cut customer costs in half compared to the old x86-based servers. But it's the cloud, data privacy, and security features that distinguish the Z14, which can encrypt every file, restrict who can access the keys, and run 1 trillion encrypted web transactions per day. With more and more small and medium-sized businesses worldwide beginning to migrate data to the cloud, IBM in India says it will shift its focus from its top 200 biggest enterprise customers to rounding up more businesses. Big Blue's cloud business in India has experienced growth rates in the double digits, and while IBM does not provide country-specific data, the cloud accounts for a quarter of IBM's annual total worldwide revenue of $19.5 billion. On that note, with IBM struggling to keep pace with its rivals Amazon and Microsoft in the cloud computing market, IBM is also shifting to a hybrid cloud strategy. That will allow Big Blue to offer services on corporate customers' cloud service, as well as on third-party servers operating by AWS and Microsoft Azure and other vendors. IBM also announced a new version of its blockchain platform software, which provides users the flexibility to compute transactions on their own premises, in the public cloud, or on a hybrid cloud architecture. The IBM upgrade includes tools for construction and management of blockchain networks, as well as networks for both payment and supply chain tracking. And investors are bullish on IBM's stock and convinced that Big Blue's investments in the hybrid cloud and artificial intelligence will begin to reverse its sluggish growth by 2021. The key is IBM's acquisition of the Linux cloud enterprise leader Red Hat, which may well lead to the creation of the first fully hybrid multi-cloud environment, combining private and public clouds with on-premise platforms. That in turn will give IBM a leg up in the growing hybrid market, which is currently valued at $1.2 trillion. And IBM's cloud-supported artificial intelligence software will be used on the Mayflower autonomous ship when it crosses the Atlantic Ocean in September 2020. This fully autonomous ship is being developed, built, and tested by a consortium led by the marine research organization ProMare. And IBM announced the other week that it will soon introduce the world's only public cloud that uses commercially available state-of-the-art cryptographic technology. In Oracle Cloud news, with the public sector increasingly migrating data to the cloud, Oracle the other month announced that its Oracle Cloud infrastructure has been certified by the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, or FedRAMP. FedRAMP is no guarantee of government contracts, but it sets a security standard for cloud platforms and companies in compliance to have a clear advantage over companies that don't. They join other cloud companies like AWS and Azure, who have been FedRAMP certified for many years already. And Oracle and VMware announced that they have agreed to a deal to allow joint customers to move their data from one company's cloud network to the other, without having to rework their code. The agreement, announced by Oracle's Senior Vice President of Cloud Engineering Infrastructure, said it resolves a long-standing tension over Oracle's handling of technical support for VMware users. And Oracle introduced a free tier that allows anyone to use its autonomous database and cloud infrastructure for free for an unlimited time. Company executives announced the Oracle Cloud free tier at Oracle's Open World conference. The free tier targets developers and students who want to experiment with Oracle's cloud platform, and is part of an effort by the company to make up ground in the cloud marketplace, where it trails behind by a significant margin to industry leaders such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. In addition to the always free services, Oracle introduced a trial program that provides users with $300 in credits for 30 days to try additional services. I've personally already seen some clever marketing by Oracle on my AWS related Twitter feeds, saying that AWS free tiers is too complex and that people should look at Oracle for a simple always free tier. And Oracle announced the modernization of its security portfolio with 3 new cloud platforms that flag misconfigurations, anomalies, and security risks. Then they use automation to respond to the threats. The 3 new cloud services are called DataSafe, CloudGuard, and Maximum Security Zones. And Oracle the other day announced that the company will hire nearly 2,000 new workers as part of its ambitious plan to roll out or ramp up its cloud computing services to more locations around the world. The new jobs will be added in Oracle's software development hubs in Seattle, Silicon Valley, and India, as well as near new data centers. I think this is a good sign because over the last 6 months we've been hearing a lot of news about layoffs in their cloud area. And in Amazon AWS news, Amazon's CEO Jeff Bezos committed to reducing the company's carbon emissions to 0 by 2030. The pledge is in compliance with the Paris Climate Accords and coincides with a worldwide walkouts by thousands of tech workers, including more than 1,500 Amazon employees. The protests are meant to pressure Silicon Valley to reduce emissions to 0 by 2030, stop offering custom cloud computing services that help the oil and gas industry find and extract more fossil fuels, and no longer donate to campaigns of politicians who deny climate change. And also check out the link below for the Wall Street story on Oracle funding a non-profit to attack AWS. Amazon also announced that it plans to add 400 new jobs in its Chicago tech hub, doubling its workforce there. Also, they announced it will open a new office in Munich and create 500 jobs in Germany to showcase its cloud computing capabilities for clients. Amazon Web Services is closing in on the launch of its first foray into hybrid cloud, Outpost, which will be the name of Amazon's cloud that is located on-site, yet rented as a service, joining rivals such as Cisco, HPE, and Dell EMC. The packaging includes a large server rack delivered already assembled with managed services, including constant connectivity to the AWS cloud. Outpost is expected to be available by the end of this year. And we also saw AWS customers complaining near the end of September that they had seen their monthly bills double and triple as a result of an apparent counting glitch. It is unclear how many customers were affected, but it appears to have centered on AWS users mostly in the United Kingdom, if social media posts are any indication. One customer wrote that he had been billed for more than 950 hours in a single month, or about 250 hours more than are actual in a standard month. And Amazon introduced a new service intended to help its cloud customers with a wide range of projects, including choosing the right architecture, optimizing workloads, building an application, or just installing software. The service is called AWS IQ. It's designed for small businesses with relatively basic needs, but larger businesses with complex projects might still benefit from the tech support it provides. And executives from Amazon Web Services said at last month's AWS Summit in Toronto that it is aggressively expanding into Canada. To cope with its growing presence north of the border, the company has introduced a third cloud zone in the country's central region near Montreal, bringing the total number of computing power hubs to 22. More than 4,500 people attended the Toronto Summit, nearly doubling last year's total, where company executives, partners, and customers convened to discuss strategies, developments, and challenges in the cloud and AWS space. And this was an interesting one that I read about, was Facebook's CEO Mark Zuckerberg the other day said that the cost of renting digital storage from the industry's leader Amazon Web Services is costly, even for a billionaire. He made the remarks half-jokingly in a reference to his wife's San Francisco-based philanthropy, the Chan Zuckerberg Institute, with research projects in a wide array of areas, including cellular biology and early stages of cancer. One of the things we talk about is our cost of computing, an AWS bill, Zuckerberg said in an open chat with the research center's co-presidents. I found it interesting seeing that Facebook has Microsoft as a big shareholder. I would have thought that they would get some relatively big discounts on Azure object storage there, but I guess not. And talking about the cost of things, to promote the use of open source technology in its cloud ecosystem, AWS is offering free credits to AWS customers. The offer represents the extension of an existing promotional offer to AWS account holders, and the objective is to spark innovation, particularly among non-profits and foundations in the areas of upstreaming and performance testing. Also continuous integration and delivery for curation on AWS. And with the Canadian elections just recently behind us, I thought it was interesting to read that more than 40 states in the US now use technology provided by AWS for elections. While AWS does not handle voting on election day, it does manage state and county election websites, stores voter registration rolls and ballot data, facilitates overseas voting by military personnel, and helps provide live election night results. According to company documents and interviews, Amazon pitches itself as a low-cost provider of secure election technology at a time when local officials and political campaigns are under intense pressure to prevent a repeat of the cyber attacks on voting systems and election infrastructure that marred the 2016 presidential election cycle. And in their latest effort to integrate its enterprise software with AWS, VMware last month introduced an on-premise service that will enable customers to automate database provisioning and management. The package Amazon Relational Database Service is available for customers running VMware vSphere 6.5 or later and supports Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. And Amazon the other week announced that revenues from its cloud division increased 35% in the third quarter, falling short of analysts' expectations. The figure also represents the lowest rate of growth for Amazon's AWS platform in more than 5 years. The cloud division ended the quarter with $9 billion in revenue, according to a statement about $100 million less than analysts had forecast. Overall, Amazon reported a 24% increase in revenue. And in Microsoft Azure news, funny thing, as you heard during the AWS news segment, there was a billing glitch in September for AWS clients. There was also a billing glitch for Azure in the month of September, but instead of bills being more than they should have been, they were actually less, with 3 days of billing information missing if you were calling the data via APIs. This would have only impacted Azure resale partners and third-party software which taps into Azure billing APIs. And Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella introduced a cloud server that weighs less than 10 pounds, fits in a backpack, and runs on batteries. Nadella introduced DataBox Edge at the Government Leaders Summit in Washington. DataBox Edge is a hardware-as-a-service solution that Microsoft will ship to customers in a cloud-managed device with a built-in field-programmable gate array that can operate independently of a network connection. And Microsoft announced in a recent blog post that it has made Sentinel available to its Azure customers. Sentinel is a security information and event management service, or SIEM, that provides customers with intelligent security analytics across their cloud platforms. Similar to other SIEM services, Azure Sentinel pulls large volumes of data from users' applications, servers, and devices running in the cloud or on-premise infrastructure. And Microsoft announced 2 new open source projects. Dapper is a portable, event-driven runtime that simplifies building microservices. And the Open Application Model, OAM, is an application that allows developers to define the resources their applications need to run on Kubernetes clusters. Microsoft Azure's CTO told reporters that OAM in particular addresses a common problem for developers. He said, if you take a look at the Kubernetes ecosystem, Kubernetes has no concept of an application. It's got the concept of deployment and services, but nothing that coherently connects these things together into one unit and deployment lifecycles that a developer would understand in the way they look at their applications. And Microsoft announced the acquisition of Mover, whose software will help make it easier for customers to migrate files to Microsoft 365. The terms of the purchase weren't disclosed, but the acquisition comes about 6 weeks after Microsoft announced the acquisition of Mover for the express purposes of helping customers move data to the company's other popular cloud platform, Azure. And there we go, that's all for this month. I know we covered a lot. For everything else that we're doing around meetups, vodcasts, podcasts, and blogs, check out www.publiccloud.ninja. Also, reach out to myself if you're Canadian based and going to AWS reInvent in December, and I'll get you onto our exclusive VIP list for the party that we'll be having there. And the next event that we'll be having in Vancouver will be in December, just after reInvent, where we'll be doing a recap of all the announcements and shenanigans that went on in Las Vegas. So keep an eye on meetup.com/publiccloud and become a member so that you get notified once those details go live. This episode was made possible by Scalar Decisions, who are a leading Canadian IT solution provider focused on security, infrastructure, and cloud, as well as NetApp, who are a leading provider in the storage solution space, which will speed up your data both on-premise, in the cloud, and everywhere in between. If you think we've missed anything, let us know in the comments section. Our next episode will be in a month's time, so make sure that you check it out, and in the meantime, keep challenging yourself.